More bad news for Nvidia. Not only people are not buying RTX 3000, everybody's waiting for AMD's 7900 XTX. Nvidia's inventory has doubled during the last year. It's pretty incredible, and people are not even buying the new RTX 4080. In fact, they're returning them just like I'm doing right here. Smash that like button and I'll run in there and return it even faster. So this is the 4080 that I picked up on launch day. I'm actually going to be returning it. That's why I have it here. I'm going to return it. The plan was my friend was going to actually take it after I finished, doing some videos, maybe reviewing it. But he doesn't want it anymore because he's been seeing, I guess, my coverage on the 4080 being really not worth it. So I'm going to bring it back, return it, and he's probably going to wait for AMD RDNA 3. He really wanted a 4090, but he couldn't get one before, and he doesn't want to pay scalper prices. So he's probably just going to have to wait for RDNA 3. That's what I told him to do. Wait for that 7900 XTX. Maybe it's going to be pretty impressive. He's okay without the ray tracing, but this guy's going to go back. I'm going to return it, obviously, about an hour after, but we'll see if they have any 4080s in stock. Let's go in. Leaving Micro Center, and there we go. Successful 4080. So the end of the year, traditionally, like the third quarter, fourth quarter, is supposed to be pretty good for GPU manufacturers and computer parts in general. But the trend has not continued. We're in a pretty bad decline of GPU sales. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com. And they have a great sale going on. If you use my code CC20, you're going to get 30% off a Windows 10 Pro CD key. And yes, this will also work on Windows 11 if you wish to upgrade to it at a different time. The process is very simple. You go to their site, add to cart, you put in code CC20 for your discount, and then of course the activation process is also very simple. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and within a short period of time your Windows is now activated. And now let's go back to the video. To be fair, it isn't just Nvidia. AMD is going through the same thing, but we kind of talk about Nvidia because they're the dominant player on the market, and hardware wise they do make some incredible GPUs, but we do have some qualms with some of the practices that they sort of employ. So today, one big thing, Nvidia's inventory, at least what they revealed from their sort of like quarterly earnings, seems to have increased a massive amount. I mean, just take a look at this graph from the last few years. You can see their inventory kind of stayed a little bit more stable and slowly increased, and then all of a sudden it started to get much worse. And that means a couple things. First, they're not selling anywhere near the pace of their products like they were before. And then second, it could be that they're doing some sort of like artificial holding back of inventory. I mean, this isn't even like a conspiracy or anything like that. They basically said so when they did their last quarterly earnings report. They said that there's a lot of sell-in, that's the word they used, into like the retail channel of GPU inventory. So they had to kind of hold back and not really release those GPUs into the wild. And if they're not releasing them into the wild and they're already made, especially like RTX 3000, the only logical place is for it to be in their inventory. So since Nvidia is a public company, we can sort of see what has to go on. They can't just hide it out of nowhere, but you do have to kind of like read through the lines a little bit to see that's what it is. I mean, like, we're never going to see a picture of a warehouse just like full of, millions of GPUs or something like that. But we can take a look at these numbers and see what's going on. Of course, impossible to tell how many, RTX 3000 is still out there. From what we can tell with retailers, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of returns as well on the used market. They're certainly, pretty widely available. But RTX 4000, now the 4090 sold out fairly quickly and it hasn't really been available. So does that mean that there are a lot of 4090s in Nvidia's inventory? Who knows? I mean, they could have a lot there and just trickle them out to the public slowly. We would never really know if it's that or if they're just selling every single one as it hits the ground. Of course, they always have to hold back certain inventory for, the different warranty repairs and things like that. So it's certainly difficult to judge. But one thing that we know is that the 4090, that one, I mean, we do have to say it did seem to have sold pretty well. Who knows if it's going to continue or not, or if Nvidia just really artificially limited those numbers. But at least from what we saw during the first, let's say, week of 4090 sales, you could have gotten it on launch day or pretty close. Now it's much more difficult. The drops haven't really been that consistent. And of course, the scalper market has really jumped on this full force. It's just nobody's buying them there because the prices are considerably higher. Actually, there's something really funny that happened. I posted a scalper priced, I think it was a 4080 on a video I did the other day, which was pretty expensive. I mean, a few $100s more than a retail 4080, and a scalper price is a reseller having a markup on it. And a viewer that's in another country, he mentioned that's still cheaper than the retail MSRP in his country of that particular 4080, which I thought, it's pretty telling. Even if a scalper price in the US still cheaper than a retail price somewhere else. Imagine a scalper price in that other country if that was going on. So prices definitely a little bit out of control there. Now the 4090 and the 4080, you can't just say they're both high-end Nvidia GPUs. It's not true. The 4090 is very different if you really start to analyze it than the 4080. First, it is more expensive, but ironically that doesn't make it less desirable. It seems like because of its performance, and it's a significant jump from the 4080. This generation is much bigger than we've seen before. The 4090 just became really desirable. Like, even the reviews were all very positive for the 4090. Nobody was talking about, the price of the 4090 as a really big deterrent. Of course, everybody mentions it. It's an expensive GPU. It's $1,600 MSRP. The starting Founders Edition goes all the way up to $2,000 for something like a Strix. So by all means, if you want to complain about the price, you can do it. But a few things make that a little bit harder. Like, it's only $100 more than the 3090, and it has incredible levels of performance compared to the 3090. We thought the 3090 was incredible when it came out. I mean, everybody loved it for years, and to have a GPU that really basically like doubles, sometimes triples that performance depending on the game or application, very, very impressive. So no doubt that the tremendous performance of the 4090, even though it's very expensive, makes it worth it in people's eyes. And it is the high-end GPU, so people expect people to pay outrageous amounts of money for those. And unfortunately, high-end GPUs are over $1,000 now. What are you going to do? You used to be able to get, a 1080 Ti, but that was a long time ago. We've had the 2080 Ti over $1,000 and the various Titan GPUs for several years now. So now, even though the 4080 still performs fantastically, the power draw very efficient with a TDP of 320 watts, nobody is really dogging on its performance. The problem here is the increase from the 3080. First of all, $500 is too much to stomach, and for the price, $1,200, regardless of that performance, it's just way too close to the 4090, and the 4090 still has a significant lead in performance when you really compare it in sort of, ray tracing and all of the different games. It really is a big difference this generation. So the 4080 is not the same. Even though it's a high-end GPU, many factors just don't make it very attractive. Now, 16 gigabytes of VRAM, I'd say that's definitely sufficient, I think, for pretty much everybody that's going to be buying a 4080. The 24 on the 4090, you could say is definitely overkill. That's more for like a hybrid content creator and gamer, somebody who could use that VRAM for 3D work or other applications. There's a lot of that goes on, machine learning, Blender, different things, DaVinci Resolve. There's a lot of uses for that GPU. You could even make an argument the 4080 is not bad at all for content creators. In fact, it is definitely a good value on that end. But for gaming, I don't know. At $1,200, it's definitely too expensive. Of course, AMD's RDNA 3 is here at $999, the reference price, to really steal the thunder from Nvidia. We don't know if that price is going to stick for the third-party AIBs. Obviously, you can expect them to charge almost as much as the 3080 or the 4080 rather, for a lot of these AIB, like Power Color, 7900 XTX. You can bet it's going to be a few $100s more than that reference GPU. But if the performance beats the 4080, it's going to be, I think, pretty impressive, and at least the rasterization should. But then there's a caveat there. Ray tracing, if you think that's important, and some gamers do, some don't, it's really going to be up to you. But it is a thing now, especially on high-end GPUs. You really want to have the eye candy on if you're going to be paying over $1,000 for a GPU, and ray tracing is part of that eye candy. It just stresses your system. If you want to turn those settings off and just play on medium or high, you might as well just get a last generation 3060 Ti or something like that if you're playing at a higher resolution, or something even cheaper. If you want to get $1,000 GPU, I would think you want to play at least on almost ultra, or at least put ray tracing on, or at least on high settings or something like that, so you can experience everything that people are talking about. Like the value or not, it's part of PC gaming now, and AMD not having quite the ray tracing performance as Nvidia certainly is still a sticking point. Even though Nvidia definitely pushes ray tracing very aggressively because they have that lead in it, it's certainly kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So Nvidia pushes ray tracing, they make GPUs that really tackle ray tracing well, and even though AMD's focus on rasterization and other things, they kind of get a little bit disadvantaged when it comes to that. So that's something to keep in mind, and the RDNA 3 may really make the 4080 kind of look bad, but we're going to see. It's coming out next month. We're getting closer and closer. Pricing and availability are going to be huge. That's going to be probably number one, and then the performance to back it up. All right, guys, so let me know what you think down below. If you think Nvidia really is going to have a tough time during the next several months, remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.